Welcome in. It's Gold and Black Radio here on this lovely Tuesday. Thanks so much for joining us. I am your new host, Derek Schultz. Really excited to be here and fill the shoes that Kyle Charters left behind, as we're happy for him. He did not get eaten by a shark. He did not go into witness protection. I'm trying to think of the other things Brian Newbert had said about him on previous shows, but Kyle instead is moving on to the Purdue Exponent. So I am filling in his place, and we're really excited to talk about a new season of Boilermaker football. Let's first welcome on our sponsors and the great people that make this show possible, including Purdue Federal Credit Union, a proud partner of Purdue Athletics and the official credit card for Purdue fans. Boiler Up, East End Grill, and Ripple and Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette, the perfect place for your next event. And also the Whitaker Inn for unparalleled comfort and cuisine. Visit the Whitaker Inn. And we've got some other sponsors to get to, but I don't want to make our guest, not even a guest, obviously a big part of this show and a big part of Purdue football over the past couple of years and a big part of Big Ten football for decades now. It's Tom Dienhart who joins us on the show. And Tom, hope springs eternal, right? Always exciting. I get the schedule. I get 18 out of 18. I get all the storylines coming up here for Purdue football in 2024, but I don't care. When it's game week and you're just a couple of days away from the start of a new season, I think it's impossible not to be excited for what could come here for the Boilermakers. Yeah,
Derek, exactly right. And welcome to you. Great to have you as part of the Gold and Black family. Hope always springs eternal when a season dawns here. Everybody's obviously undefeated. The possibilities are limitless. Little seems impossible, but, the prognosticators have painted, a dim picture for Purdue this year, right? If you believe the prognosticators. Down in Indianapolis, the Cleveland.com poll, which is sort of the respected media poll, had Purdue finishing last in the conference. And believe me, Derek, Ryan Walters and company, everybody over there in the Kosich Football Performance Complex took note, and I think that's going to be a heck of a motivation for the team. We'll get our first glimpse, obviously, of Purdue Saturday at high noon. Indiana State's the opponent. And, Derek, I think Purdue has to do more than just win in this opener.
Yeah.
I think they have to impress. They need to put on a little bit of a show. They need to, I think, handle this team with ease. Just obviously get off to a good start. You're going to go into a bye week, Derek, and then things start really getting meaty. Things start really getting interesting when Notre Dame comes to West Lafayette.
Yeah, it's a game and an opponent that they defeated 2 years ago, which obviously much different circumstances 2 years ago, different coach, an entirely different team basically, but 56-0 in their last meeting. And I know, Tom, that Ryan Walters and his staff and his team can't look at it this way, but really Indiana State, they're 3-19 the last 2 years. This is the only free space on the 2024 board for Purdue. There are no other gimmies. There are no other free spaces that are there with the schedule that it provides. So, not only win, but to win convincingly, I think would go a long way. And also, you've seen them in camp so far. Camp is great, but there's nothing like live reps. So if the Boilers can put this thing on ice by early third quarter or so, you can get some guys some meaningful experience and see more what you have in a live game setting.
Yeah, the coaches are never going to admit that this could be an easy game, but I think that's the hope deep down. You don't get to play exhibition games, obviously, in college football. This is the closest thing to an exhibition Purdue's going to have. You call it a free space. That's a good way to put it. This is a one-win team last year. And you're right. Ideally for Purdue, they take control of this thing early. They put their foot on Indiana State's neck. They can get their starters out. They can get some good some good reps, some good game time for the backups. Go into that bye week relatively healthy or totally healthy and get ready for Notre Dame. So you're right. In a perfect world, this would be a blowout, and Purdue would get his starters out early, and ideally they'd get them out to healthy as well.
I believe it was you that led the press conference with Coach Walters yesterday, and I think it was a good question about, hey, what's different? Because so much is different, right, from a coach transitioning from year one to year two. And he talked about the process and identifying things that worked, identifying things that didn't work, and adjusting as necessary. But I wanted to ask you, Tom, just from what you've seen in camp this year compared to last August, or just the general vibe around the team and the staff now in year two, what have you seen that's different from August 27th, 2024 compared to the same date in 2023?
I think meat on the hoof, if you will, Derek. The size of the team, especially on the offensive line, they made a concerted effort to get bigger up front. They added 4 portal guys, 2 junior college players, 4 high school kids, and they definitely are bigger, Derek. There's no doubt about it. They're deeper as well. And they've also gotten bigger at the wide receiver spot too. Some big 6'3", 6'4" targets. Keep your eye on number 7, Jamal Edrin. He's the kid from Florida Atlantic that missed last year with an injury. He looks the part of an alpha wide receiver. I think he wants to play that part. I think he's capable of being that and then some this fall. So there's that. And you know what, Derek? There's always sort of a good vibe around the team, it seems like, at least from afar. I think Ryan Walters he makes a concerted effort to really try to foster. I know it sounds kind of hokey and corny sometimes, but foster a family atmosphere where they care about you beyond what you can do for them on the football field. And he talked at length yesterday about a lot of the bonding exercises that they had. There were a lot of new faces, Derek. 23 players from the portal transfers. They had 3 junior college transfers, over 20 freshmen. So a lot of new faces. They made a concerted effort to do a lot of things away from the field, be it paintball, be it dodgeball, be it just breaking bread at a restaurant, bowling, fishing, just to get to know each other and foster that family atmosphere where they care about each other. And then that seemed to sort of, I think, emanate from afar when you see how the team sort of conduct itself, at least in their practices. So, we'll see. You can see all the great things right now, Derek, on August 27th. But like you said, they're all going to be judged when the ball gets kicked off. And, yeah, you talked off the top about that schedule. It's awfully challenging. But I guess with that challenging schedule comes a lot of good opportunities too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you think about the 4 top 9 opponents in the preseason polls that Purdue's going to face. 3 of those games will be at home. So, having Notre Dame back, I understand that Indiana is the main rival, but Notre Dame and Purdue have a great history and some great battles over the years. And I know that that's a game, Notre Dame fans can say whatever they want. I know Notre Dame fans that take that game seriously. And I know Purdue fans love to hate Notre Dame. So that's a fun one. And Oregon, everybody remembers the Ralph Bolden game from the Danny Hope era back in the day where they went out to Autzen and they had a chance to win that game. Purdue and Penn State. I think there are some fun challenges that are ahead, but it's interesting that you mentioned the fact of it sounding cheesy about building that rapport. But Tom, you've been around college football forever. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame now. Of course, you have to take care of these players financially, but I do think there's something about building and fostering an emotional connection where guys that now have the ability to go elsewhere whenever they want and leave to actually build those kind of relationships. So they might have second thoughts about trying to move on for so-called greener pastures.
Yeah, I think that cuts across all fields, Derek. You know that if somebody cares about you, beyond what you do professionally, I think you're more than willing to maybe really give it your all and run through a wall for somebody if they care about you, if they love you, and want the best for you as a person. I think that goes a long way. I think they try to do that here. And like you said, it's a whole new world of college football with the transfer portal where, like you said, guys can leave whenever they want. So it's a young staff, Derek. There's a lot of vibe with that young staff, a lot of youth across the board, guys right in your age group, and guys in their late 30s, early 40s, some even a little bit younger than that. So I think they are able to connect these players as well. So it's going to be interesting. The schedule you talked about a little bit, the opportunity with Oregon coming to West Lafayette and, Nebraska and that Big Ten opener on September 28th. That's a big game, I think, as well for Purdue. Penn State rolling, and they have to go to Ohio State. They have to go to Wisconsin, which has really been their nemesis for 25 or 30 years now. So, yeah, there's plenty of challenges, but in a lot of ways, I think, Derek, you always kind of look at your peer programs. You got to beat your peer programs. And for Purdue, that means beating the likes of Indiana, Michigan State, Illinois, Northwestern, Nebraska, those schools. For Purdue, though, 3 of those games are on the road this year. They have to go to Bloomington. They have to go to Champaign as well, and they have to go to East Lansing. Makes it a little more difficult. But those are the kind of games, I think, where Purdue's really got to make its hay and beat, like I said, those peer programs if they want to have any hope at all to get to 6 wins of bowl eligibility.
Yeah, and that's why I'm so intrigued, Tom, about this year because, and I think we can maybe get more in depth into this when we have more time on Friday's show when we're just kind of giving season outlook stuff. But you look at last year's record was 4-8, and then this year with the schedule, I think there's a situation where Purdue could again go 4-8 and actually win both of their trophy games with Illinois and Indiana, win at Oregon State, which I know is no longer a Power 5 program, but certainly was a Power 5 program. And that's a tough road trip all the way out there to Corvallis on the other side of the country. And you'd still be kind of where you were last year. And people would look at it on paper and be like, well, 4-8 and 4-8. I think we might unfortunately see improvement and see reasons for optimism and progress that don't necessarily impact the bottom line wins and losses in the scope of this year, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Sort of like that Bill Parcells phrase, you are what your record says you are. But I think sometimes you have to look just beyond the record. And I think that's sort of what you're alluding to there, Derek. They could be 4-8 again, but it could be a different 4-8. How does Purdue compete against the elite programs on its schedule? That's going to be a big measuring stick, right? Do they show like they can be on the field with an Ohio State? Can they stay on the field with an Oregon and a Penn State, those type of opponents? And not necessarily beat those teams, but keep them competitive and push them to the limit. And who knows, Derek, maybe pull that one big upset this year, like Purdue did against Ohio State back in 2018 over on Ross-Ade. So I think that's going to be a big barometer. And people want to know that you're competitive, and they want to know that you're playing smart football as well, I think, and have a chance every Saturday. So I think, you got to win games too, but I think sometimes you got to look beyond just the one-loss record and how the team battled, how it competed, especially when you get up against those elite programs that every team faces during the course of a season.
We had talked about the portal, Purdue with plenty of attrition, but also plenty of addition as well. And I'm intrigued, as are many Purdue people, about the additions that we'll see on the field come Saturday. Of those first-time Boilermakers with college experience under their belts, Tom, who are you most looking forward to see coming up here noon Saturday against the Sycamores?
Well, they're going to start a true freshman at cornerback, Teron Grant. I know he's not a portal guy, but he's a 5-star recruit from Tennessee. Those type of players don't matriculate to West Lafayette too often, Derek. So he could be a special player. Watch number 12 on defense, just a true freshman. Of the portal guys, watch the rush end position. Nick Scorton went to Texas A&M. Kydron Jenkins is now an inside linebacker. They brought in, 4 portal rush ends, but 2 guys to watch are the one kid from Boston College, Sheeta Soleil, number 17, number 8, CJ Madden from Georgia. Can they bring the heat? Because they're going to need somebody off the edge to join Will Helt to get after opposing quarterbacks. And I think up front on offense, I'm not sure if he's going to play. If he doesn't, won't be much. But their left tackle, Corey Stewart, he's missed a lot of camp, Derek. But he's from Ball State, and he's a guy that looks like a future pro. They may hold him out Saturday, but that's a guy, if he plays, you should definitely keep an eye on as well. Unfortunately, too, Derek, 2 of the better portal guys are going to miss this game. Nyland Green, the cornerback, and C.J. Smith, a wide receiver, both from Georgia. But Ryan Walters hopes they'll be back in time for the Notre Dame game. So there's no shortage of new faces to keep an eye on Saturday for Boilermaker fans.
Yeah, and you mentioned Corey, Ryan Walters yesterday in the press conference, kind of non-committal about whether he's going to go. I think he said still questionable as far as his status.
Yeah, I'd sit him out, get him healthy for Notre Dame.
Makes a lot of sense, especially given the opponent. But you mentioned Will Held, and there's a guy that I think has been talked about a lot as this being a so-called leap year for him, right? Where, okay, he really impressed early on, going to take the next step. If you're to make a list of the candidates to kind of make that jump on this Purdue roster this year, is he at the top of that list?
Yeah, that's the guy, boy. Walking off the bus, he's awfully impressive. 6'6". His body's starting to fill out. You got to think he has a good chance to be a pro one day. He's pretty motivated, just a true sophomore, but this could be the year where he really steps up and makes a name for himself, maybe on a national level. So a lot of excitement around, number 15 from Carmel, Indiana there. And, I talked about Jamal Edrin, the wide receiver. I think he's very hungry. Like I said, last August, he injured a knee, missed the entire year. He was supposed to be the number 1 receiver last year, but again, that injury sidelined him. Now he's finally going to make his Purdue debut, and I think he's really motivated to make an impact this year. So watch him for sure. And I tell you what, I think when you look at the defense overall, I talked about the 2 rush ends. And you look at the back end, Nyland Green was a guy who's not going to play, which is unfortunate. But again, they've got some other safeties, I think. This kid's not necessarily a newcomer, but we were talking to Kydron Jenkins today, and he was asked what other players have really caught his eye on defense this year. He mentioned Antonio Stevens, number 11, who's a safety, a guy who sort of gets lost in the shuffle. A terrific story. He suffered a big, bad knee injury back in 2020. Some people thought he'd never play again, but he's battled all the way back, and he's going to be a key part of that defense this year, working on the back end with Dylan Wieneman.
You're listening to Golden Black Radio alongside Tom Dienhart. I'm Derek Schultz. Thanks so much for joining us as we're getting you prepped to go for Indiana State, the 2024 season opener, at noon kick at Ross-Ade Stadium coming up on Saturday. This show brought to you by our friends at Sand Valley Resort. If you're heading up to Camp Randall to see the Boilers take on Wisconsin on October 5th, you can sign up to win 4 tickets to the game plus an overnight stay at Sand Valley, your new winter resort getaway, just an hour and a half from beautiful Madison. Visit sandvalleypursuits.com/Purdue giveaway to enter. And also got to tell you about, because it ends tonight, I believe, don't forget to take advantage of our flash sale of new members at goldenblack.com, 50% off. So half off an annual subscription. Obviously, we want you to be a member of our great coverage that Tom, Brian, and everybody else provide here at goldenblack.com. And that sale ends tonight. So go ahead and take advantage of that. I made it 15 minutes without bringing up Hudson Carr, which is probably good, Tom, considering that a lot of people like to bring up the quarterback initially in these conversations, but I actually think that it's funny with the portal and everything else. It's a real asset to have a returning quarterback in your returning system with a returning head coach like Purdue has in Card here for year number 2.
Yeah, logic dictates he'll be better in year 2 in the system, right? That's the hope. That's the belief. He's been here a year. And last year was really the first time he'd ever been a starter on a consistent basis. So there was a learning curve there as well. He wasn't working behind a great offensive line. He got banged up, Derek. He missed the Northwestern game. He almost missed the Iowa game. So, again, I think there's a lot of hope that Hudson Carr can give this team an edge. If you look at the landscape of Big Ten quarterbacks, at least right now, it doesn't look like a real impressive lot. Dylan Gabriel at Oregon is probably your best guy. People like Drew Allar at Penn State. They talk about Will Howard at Ohio State. But really, there's no guys that jump out and grab you. Well, I think Hudson Carr has a chance to be one of the better quarterbacks in this league. And as you know, you watch a lot of football too over the years. If you got a good quarterback, you always have a shot. And I got to think having a guy like Carr with his experience, his command of the offense, the respect that he's earned from his teammates, I think he's going to give Purdue a good chance to win most of these ball games. The big key, like I said, is keeping him healthy, keeping him upright. And this offense, I think, has a chance to be very balanced. I love the running backs. I like the offensive line. Nice run-pass balance to keep defenses off balance. And I really think, Derek, the offense has a chance overall to really be a cut above. I think it's going to have to lead the way early in the year while the defense sort of finds its legs.
Yeah, I was going to ask it. I think the question is, how heavy of a burden does the Purdue defense put on its offense, right? This was a unit that gave up 30 points per game last year and was the worst against the pass in the entire Big Ten. And, I agree with you. I'm also bullish on the offense, but, everything has its limit, right? How much weight you put on Hudson Card and Maccabee and everybody else's shoulders. And I'm also intrigued to see what happens at receiver, where you're replacing basically your top guys and turning the page entirely in that position group.
There's been a lot of injury at receiver in camp, Derek. I talked about C.J. Smith being out. Jaden Dixon-Veal, who's probably going to be a starter, he missed a lot of camp as well. Cam Brown, who's a transfer from UCLA, he missed almost the entirety of camp as well. So my point is, a lot of guys who are projected to play big roles at wide receiver missed a lot of training camp. So it could be a mixed bag. They're going to start a true freshman there too, Shamar Rigby. They're going to start a true sophomore, Jerron Tibbs, as well. So they got some depth there, but those aren't the guys who are projected to really be the leaders in that unit. So keep your eye on that receiving core, how it looks Saturday. It's certainly not going to be how it looks ideally as the season progresses, but they'll get a look at some of the depth, I think. But you're right. The defense has to eliminate big plays and generate some turnovers, too. It was usually feast or famine last year Either they made a big play or they allowed a big play. And they're going to have to get things buttoned up, I think. I'll tell you what, too, Derek, lastly, the offense can help them out, too, just by running the ball well, trying to keep other teams' offenses off the field for extended stretches by possessing the ball.
Yeah, I don't have the stats in front of me, Tom, but just my inkling was watching Purdue last year was that they had a very poor offensive conversion in 3rd and short to defenses allowed conversion on 3rd and long. It felt like they gave up a lot of 3rd and 10 pluses on defense, and they couldn't convert a lot of 3rd and shorts on offense, and that's a frustrating place to reside in.
Yeah, they like to take chances on defense. They're going to bring pressure, which, of course, leaves guys in one-on-one coverage. And it's easy to give up big plays when you do things like that. But that's sort of their mindset, I think, on defense. And to your point about short yardage on offense, boy, what a bugaboo for Purdue fans. It seems like for generations, right? Yeah. 3rd and 1, 4th and 2, red zone. You're at the goal line, 3rd and 1 at the goal line. Purdue can't get that one tough yard, Derek. Time and again, they can't get that tough yard when everybody in the stadium knows you want to run the ball. Can you run the ball? Purdue usually can't do it. But I talked earlier about the size of the offensive line. That was one of their goals, was to get bigger up front. They have certainly done that. So we'll see if that does translate and have them more success in short yardage situations to convert those 3rd downs into 1st downs.
Wanted to throw special teams into the conversation as well because, speaking of frustrations, the kicking game last year was not exactly rose petals and gumdrops and sugar plum fairies with how Purdue performed. Is it weird to call Spencer Porath one of the key players, the freshman from Brownsburg this year, to come in as a highly thought of kicker and take that job and hopefully solidify that spot for Purdue?
Yeah, he's got some pressure on him. We'll see if he wins the job. Maybe they'll alternate kickers here early in the season. Mm-hmm. Ben Freehill's the other kicker. Of course, fans are familiar with Ben Freehill. He's a 6th-year player. He's probably 24 years old, and Spencer Porath's 18. And so we'll see how that works out. Ben Freehill had some blood clot issues early last year and struggled, lost the job because of it, got healthy, came back and actually kicked pretty well at the end of the year. So they always have Ben Freehill as their ace in the hole if something doesn't work out with Spencer Porath. But you're right, Derek. They got to get the field goal kicking buttoned up because if you're going to have a nice season, there's going to be 1 or 2 times where you're going to have a big kick, right?
Yep.
Always you're going to have 1 or 2 big kicks. So they got to get that sorted out. I think the rest of the special teams was pretty solid last year. They have a new punter this year, Keelan Crimmins from Mississippi State, another Aussie. I think he'll be fine. Watch the return game Saturday. That's been overhauled. A new name on punt returns, number 31, Dylan Thieneman. Look for it. He's going to be the guy back there taking punts this year. It's going to be exciting to watch him back there. Kid from Indianapolis, Elijah Jackson. It's going to be one of their main kickoff returners. So some new faces and new numbers in the return game this year. But I know the special teams coach, Chris Petrelli, is very excited about the options he has back there.
Hopefully Purdue fans can watch Thieneman return punts and not be in the fetal position on the ground in their living room waiting for something horrible to happen as he gets tackled for the first time, because I know that always gives people a lot of pause. But my opinion is, Tom, look, he's a playmaker. And yep. any area where you can use him as a weapon, I think you have to try it if you're Ryan Walters and company.
Hey, man, I always say, remember when you went out to recess in 4th and 5th grade, you played pickup football? You knew the guys who were the difference makers even then, didn't you? Mm-hmm. You knew you wanted to have the ball in their hands. And Dylan Thieneman's one of those guys that your mom could watch 5 minutes of football and say, that guy's good. That guy should have the ball in his hands. That's Dylan Thieneman. So you know what? You can't worry about guys getting hurt. He could win a game for him, Derek. He could win a game with a big punt return. You got to use your best players and just hope for the best.
We'll get more in depth on the Sycamores coming up on Friday's show and the matchup, which is, of course, Purdue's first of the 2024 season. We'll also talk about scheduling and the outlook for the team and just kind of the national and even some of the local narratives about who Purdue is as, team 18 of 18 in the Big Ten and expectations for this year and what would make it a successful year. I'm looking forward to diving into all of that with Tom and our full Gold and Black crew coming up on Friday's show. Want to thank our sponsors, though, for today. Thanks to Purdue Federal Credit Union, the official credit card for Purdue fans, East End Grill, and Ripple & Company, two distinctive bistros across the street from one another on the far end of Main Street in Lafayette. Our friends at the Whitaker Inn, which is the Midwestern oasis, perfect for a relaxing staycation or a weekend getaway where you can escape from the ordinary at the Whitaker Inn. Sand Valley Resort. Sign up at sandvalleypursuits.com/Purdue giveaway to win free tickets for the October 5th battle at Camp Randall against the Badgers. And don't forget, of course, once again, to take advantage of the 50% off membership sale at goldandblack.com. Tom, I appreciate it. Thanks for guiding me along here on my maiden voyage on GBR, and looking forward to talking with you again later this week.
Thank you very much, Derek.